be sure that most probably this panel is about investment in Ukraine. And the reason he is calling to you because most likely everyone else has refused to do that. And the reason is not only because we have star guests from the parliament, from the cabinet of ministers speaking in the whole A. The reason is that for the last 15, maybe 20 years, whenever you go to the panel about investment in Ukraine, you meet the same people, they talk about the same topics, and the problems are the same. So nothing new. Why would you go for the panel of investing in Ukraine? But this time, probably the first time in the history of this forum, we'd like to make it different. We'd like to make discussion really meaningful and interesting. And the secret component of that is, of course, our honorable speakers who are from different geographies, from different industries. Someone is from international financial organizations, someone is from banks, someone is from private sector. And give you a warm welcome, please, to our guests. I would like to invite Lisa Kestner from International Finance Corporation, Regional Manager for Ukraine, Moldova, World Bank Group. Lisa just recently joined this adventure. Please take a seat. If someone needs, we'll have translation, so if someone needs ears, yeah, please get it. I would like to invite Vasil Tofan, Senior Partner at Horizon Capital. Thank you, he is our... Okay, they know each other, that's great. Great. I would like to invite Mr. Crispin Ellison. He is a partner at Marsh McLennan. He has different roles, but when we were speaking, he said, this is the best way to introduce Marsh McLennan. Please take a seat. Mr. Konstantinas Nakis, he is a partner and president of Chicago Atlantic Trident. Please welcome. Sergey Kuzmenko, Chief Financial Officer at Interpipe. Sergey, thank you for coming. And last but not least, the board member at Privat Bank Ukraine, Mr. Dmytro Musienko. Thank you for coming as well. Have a seat. I don't know why they just left the land was next to me. Okay, thank you for coming today. In the context of ongoing aggression, we face a unique challenge while simultaneously we demonstrate the remarkable resilience and potential for recovery. Investment is a key factor for maintaining economic stability and Ukraine's future recovery. However, the military actions create unprecedented risks and requires new innovation approach to the management of those risks and mitigation. And over the remaining 70 minutes probably, we will explore how to both international and domestic investors in Ukraine could survive and get returns in Ukraine despite those high risks. We will also discuss strategies and instruments that will help protect investors and check the role of international financial organization in this context. So let's probably start with a brief overview of major challenges. You all have different professional background, personal background, different experiences. But let's look at this question about the challenges from your professional angle. Maybe a couple of minutes just to outline the major messages. Vasily, I guess if the first question will go to you. What are the main concerns that your LPs and partners ask or express investing in Ukraine?
Thank you. It's a big privilege to be here. So a very brief intro. I represent here Horizon Capital, private equity fund manager. We've been investing in Ukraine for the last 30 years. And we manage about 1.6 billion in capital. We're very proud about having actually an active fund at the moment that we managed to raise also with IFC's help. So thank you, Lisa, for being here, of $350 million. And importantly, we've started putting that money to work. So over the last 12 months, we invested more than $100 million in companies in Ukraine. Our strategy at this stage has been primarily to focus on asset-light exporting companies, because we believe this is a safer product for the current environment in Ukraine. and addressing your question on the challenges in that sense, because asset-light exporting companies like IT companies, they are primarily human capital companies. I think the biggest challenge has been around the concerns on the human capital, things like mobilization and the outflow of people. So that's, if I would identify one, I think that's the one that would concern us most.
Thank you. So people is the key question, right?
Yes, indeed, and you understand this is a very tough one to square, because we all understand this country needs to win the war. So mobilization is a real need. It's not something you can dispute. So squaring this need between the need to have a strong army, and at the same time maintaining a viable economy and viable businesses and the human capital here, I think it's one of the biggest, of course, conundrums of the current situation.
Crispin, the next question goes to you. We know that you've done tremendous job for Ukraine, and we'll speak about this in details, of course, in a later stage. But speaking about insurance, what is the key elements missing right now for Ukraine to attract investment, protect investments? Is there something special still need to be done?
Yeah, I think the key challenge is the lack of insurance. It's as simple as that.
This is quite general.
The global insurance industry is not engaging with Ukraine. 95% of global insurance capital is excluded from Ukraine, and we have blanket exclusions for all reinsurance. So we are left trying to make small bespoke insurance solutions for key things. And as you know, we've been working on Black Sea insurance, aviation insurance, so you can open up Lviv and eventually Borispil Airport, and currently a lot of bespoke insurance products for energy assets needed to survive this winter. But these are small bespoke. The problem is getting the insurance industry to engage and do its job, and it's not doing it at the moment.
Why do you believe that we will succeed on that? Because for the last almost 3 years, nothing almost is possible. From my personal experience, I know if you need to insure some building or production facility, the cap you would get is probably $1 million. No one will go beyond that, a part of maybe MEGA Group and World Bank facilities. But on the ground, nothing is available. Why do you think we will have any?
And, you know, MEGA and World Bank, with all due respect, are tiny. You know, we're talking about how do we get access to the multi-trillion-dollar insurance market, which we haven't. At the moment, you cannot reinsure earthquake or flood in Ukraine. The technical term for that is bonkers. Yeah, it's mad. You know, war risk is difficult. Insurance is frightened by war risk, and only specialists do it. But we can't get general insurance. You can't get construction risk insurance, natural disaster insurance. So we've got to challenge the industry, and I'll talk a bit more about the campaign that we're launching, hopefully with the support of your president, over the next few days.
Thank you. It was an interesting message saying that the World Bank is a small, tiny organization. I don't know if we agree or not, but to some extent, maybe Mr. Ellison knows better, but I should refer to Lisa, to you. I know that before the war, many IFIs has credit lines on Ukrainian projects, but they never been utilized fully, taking IFC, BRD. It was like only a portion, 20, 30, maximum 50, 70%. Each year, there were like bankable project applying to IFIs, and they were getting credit lines. What is the biggest challenges you now observe in Ukraine? What are the things which bothers you, let's say?
Thank you very much, and it's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Maybe just to say that IFC, the International Finance Corporation, which is part of the World Bank Group, focused on the private sector, has actually invested 4.8 billion in Ukraine since its independence. So not maybe huge when you divide it over so many years, but not trivial. And I think one thing we're particularly proud of is actually the amount that we have financed since the beginning of 2022 is 1.8 billion, so about a third of that. So we've really ramped up our financing in Ukraine. I guess the challenge I wanted to highlight and maybe put on the table for discussion is most of that financing has been with excellent local partners. I think one of the challenges Ukraine has, particularly when we think about the massive financing that will be needed for reconstruction, is how to attract more foreign investors. So this is one of the, when I think about challenges where I think IFC could help, I think it's attracting foreign direct investment. We can talk more about the obstacles to that and what the opportunities are. But just to say that if you look even, this predates the current invasion. If you look back to 2018, Ukraine had the lowest stock of foreign direct investment in the whole region in Eastern Europe. So this is more of a structural endemic challenge that Ukraine faces that I think will be very important for us to jointly try to address in order to bring more foreign investment now, but also for the reconstruction.
Can we say that the war is not the major reason for that? Because we've never been champions in attracting investors, and in this hall we have like 2 investment funds, the largest in Ukraine. I see the people from Dragon Capital and Horizon. I mean, it would be difficult to name other like 5 or 6 private equity company for funds for the size of our economy. I mean, is the war is a real problem for that?
So for sure, war plays a huge impact. If you look at the trends in foreign direct investment, you see a big downturn first in 2009, which was because of the global financial crisis, but then also in 2014, there was like a tenfold drop in foreign investment. And then in 2022, of course, we saw another drop. But I think even if you take that out, I think there's basically 3 key reasons. One is that Ukraine's economy remains quite dominated by state-owned enterprises and politically connected firms, which makes it difficult for foreign investors to kind of find their spot on the field. The second would be, foreign investors, they have choices where they're going to go, right? Are they going to go to Ukraine or are they going to go to somewhere else? And one of the drivers is what's the market if they go to a particular location, the domestic market, but also the opportunity to export. And Ukraine, as we all know, the demographics were even before the wave of displaced people, the demographics in Ukraine, it was a shrinking population. And in terms of exports, not so well connected to neighboring markets. And last, a weak investment climate. So weak rule of law, pressure from enforcement agencies, and the word everyone likes to say about Ukraine, which I find a bit too general, corruption, but we know it was an issue.
That's everywhere.
As everywhere.
As everywhere. Thank you, Lisa. Sergey, may I ask you? You are from the real business, right? From
the industrial.
From the industry, right? People on the ground. From IFI's perspective and investment funds, the situation might look different. But if you are in production somewhere close to the front line, you have your specific pains and issues. What are those?
We're really now focused on basics. First of all, it's military risks, especially for us. It's very painful to operate in Nikopol, just 5 kilometers from the front line. Of course, the big issues with infrastructure, critical infrastructure like electricity, access to electricity, prices for electricity, complicated logistic, expensive logistic, and of course the access to professional male workforce. That is a big issue now.
Do you think those problems are common for the whole Ukrainian economy, or there is anything specific related to Interpipe? Because you're like exporting 80% of anything you produce, right?
Yeah, you are right, but we hugely depend on the resources here in Ukraine, and the level of this risk hugely depends now on the region. We are quite close to the front, and that is why we have these issues, for instance, with workforce, have these issues with electricity, which is quite common, but for us, electricity now is the second, when we talk of second part of our cost side, and that is very painful.
Thank you. You mentioned you are close to the front line, and that's why I have a question for Privatbank, because, you know, Dmitry, yeah, you have a vast experience in Ukrainian banking from state banks, from foreign banks, right? So you can speak basically for the industry. Would you provide loans for the companies close to the front line? And what are your observations about Ukrainian corporate sector? What are the pains of your clients, basically?
Ну, насправді ми з самого початку війни
From the very start of the war, Privatbank testing, interpreter voice should be now heard. So we keep funding small and medium enterprises. Testing, does the interpreter work? Okay, thank you. Testing. Lisa has. No, Lisa. Somebody should turn on Lisa's headset. So we keep providing loans to small and medium enterprises, because stopping the retail loans would stop development of Ukrainian economy. So it's not only the war risk. Investment in modernization. Privatbank, from the start of the war, when the missile fell next to the data center, we decided to put all of our data storage into the cloud. So National Bank allowed to do it for banks. We did it within 45 days. Let me give you the number. We finalized such project in 45 days. And normally it takes a year and a half, such project, for a bank of our size, so that you understand what it is. It's 10,000 servers that Privatbank had. They will all move to the cloud. Data size, 6 to 8 petabytes of information. It's insane amount of information. So now we feel okay, or our customer data is protected, and that has a very positive impact on the bank work on Ukraine. As for loans, do we provide loans to the companies that are close to the front line? Well, from the start of large-scale invasion, we split entire Ukraine into several zones: green, amber, and red. Red being temporarily occupied or close to the front line. And we keep providing loans in green and amber zones. We do provide loans to companies there. Also, might be of interest to you that a level of NPL in corporate businesses only 3%. So financial discipline of our customers is impressive. And even the war did not help deteriorate that. Our customers are now better in terms of payment discipline. In 2023, we started cooperating with EBRD in risk distribution and for critically important industries up to 240 million euro. And in 2024, together with USAID and the insurance company UNIT.City, we created a farmer loan program to provide additional funding to farmers. This year, we signed an agreement on portfolio guarantees for 400 million euros with EBRD. Right, sorry. I know Privatbank is a great thing, and you have moved into a cloud. So you're now neobank, right? Yeah, we're classic, but state of the art. Yeah, we'll talk about the international program as well. This is also important. But I know companies that are in Slavutic, Chernihiv region, or somewhere down the north. They cannot get a loan because they're 8 kilometers from Belarus, and Russia 40 kilometers. They say nobody gives us loan, and so it sounds great on the panel discussion, but then they run into risks and they say, well, no loans, no credit funding, no project funding. What are the pains and problems that the customers talk about? Yeah, you're right. Project funding, no bank is doing project funding. That's true, unfortunately, because unpredictability, war risks. Unfortunately, that the war risks are not insured, and that impacts the possibility of providing loans. But despite that, we do provide loans. There is a state program 579. We were very active in there. The state supported Ukrainian companies, and we disbursed the biggest number of loans. We took the biggest share of the market. Of course, we assess the risk for each company individually. We're very cautious with the companies who are close to the front line, which is normal. We need to take risks differently from amber, green, and red. Right. We'll talk about this in detail. Thank you, Konstantin.
Not least, when we met recently, you said, I'm optimistic about Ukraine. I'm dedicated. I'm in this country full time, despite the climate uncomparable to Greece. But and this is true. This is absolutely true. But how does Chicago Atlantic evaluate the investment risk and opportunities in Ukraine in general? Why are you here full time? This is not very usual. Let's put it this way.
Sure. First of all, thank you very much for having me, and I would like to congratulate the organizers for the great event. I represent Chicago Atlantic, and we are an American investment group. We are a $2 billion investment group with two funds listed on NASDAQ and 5 private funds. And Chicago Atlantic Trident is our impact investing strategy that is focused in Ukraine. We prioritize investments in food security, building materials, logistics, and affordable housing. And to address your question, yes, I'm very optimistic for the future of this country, and that's why we would like to be part of the success story. We think that the future is bright. We support the accession of the country in the European Union. There is a lot of upside there. We support and believe in the human capital. That is a real treasure for the country. We would like to be part of this success story. So to address your question, how we evaluate the business and the proposals. We focus a lot in the team, the track record, the experience, how they are organized, and of course, we would like to see appetite to adapt a more institutional way of doing business. This is something that we would like to bring here. Transparency is also very important for us. Mature projects are important. We have a ticket that is average 10 million. So we are focused in companies that in the range of 5 to 40 million in revenues. I would say SMEs. I think this is important because SMEs is the backbone of the country. So this has to be a priority for all the investors, including the international investors and DFIs, because it will help to boost the economic development of the country. So I'm really optimistic. I think that we have to explain to our Western colleagues that Ukraine is a modern country. It's a Western country, it's a European country. It's not an underdeveloped country that people have to think that's super risky and they will lose their money, but we have to work and address a few important issues. For example, of course, war risk is important. The infrastructures that we have to rebuild, it's important, but we have also to start thinking other issues too, like the regulatory framework and the rule of law. this is something that our investors and our LPs continuously ask and are concerned. Rule of law is important because it makes investors feel safety and security. And when investors are confident, then we can have more investors and attract more investors. So rule of law for me is number one. And of course, corruption is also very important. And contracts enforcement is also very important. I am really confident. I see that the Ukrainian government is working in the right direction. More things have to be done. And of course, all of us have to work and closely in order to succeed.
Konstantinos, thank you. You mentioned that you are impact investment. Am I right? My meaning is that impact investment, you make money, you invest, you make money, and then you reinvest for the for a better world. So my question is quite simple, because I have a couple of friends, businessmen, smiling about making money in Ukraine. Have you made money in Ukraine already, or it's coming?
I hope it's coming.
Okay. Thank you for being fair with us. We hope.
But okay. First of all, what we mean by impact investing, it means that we invest in projects and companies, and our investment produce measurable social and development impact. So we are not here just for the return; we are here also for the impact, and this is very important for us. And we have tolerance in a lower level of return. We don't have an opportunistic strategy here that buy low, sell high. It's not the case here. That's why for us it's important also the social impact. In terms of where we are, we have evaluated more than 100 proposals.
Yeah, let's talk about this in the next stage, because we need to proceed with the panel. We'll get into details. Can we put a QR code, please? We prepared the voting because the audience today is really outstanding. I guess a couple of investors definitely in the room. So if you can scan, it's not for the speakers. But it's up. No, it's up to you. But I mean, there is a scenario you can put a wrong mark, and I'll be in trouble. This is for audience. But again, this is a voting which we prepared for the audience. It has 6 questions, I guess. You can vote on your mobile phone, and we'll go through details. Yes, it has 6 questions. I'll just briefly name. The first one: how would you rate Ukrainian current investment attractiveness from 7 maximum to 1 minimum right now? The second one: how likely will you invest in Ukraine in the next 12 months? Going shopping is not investment. The second question. The third one: what is the most significant risk when investing in Ukraine today? You can choose 2. And then we'll see how the voting will balance. The fourth question is: which sectors would you believe provide the best investment opportunity in Ukraine? We have a couple of sectors, you can choose 2. Question number 5, what would be the most critical factors to increase your confidence in putting money in Ukraine? Again, you can choose 2. We'll see how the votes will go. And the last one, how would you rate Ukrainian potential for investment in post-war period? Is there a chance? Are we still as optimistic as Mr. Nakis? As you vote, I propose to move further. Ukraine has its own specifics. We are ex-Soviet Union country or republic. We have a bumpy road of reforms, a lot of advantages, definitely. And for the last 10 years, we are in a state of war. And for the last 3 years, full-scale war. But from the other hand, the world is changing so fast. We have pandemics, we have regional conflicts. Someone says that end of globalization is a new stage. We have regional conflicts, shift of power, new type of leaders coming in power in different regions as well. Take the last election in US. And I think Ukrainians think that you are unique, that we are unique in Ukraine. But speaking from outside, I have many voices saying, "Hi, guys, you are not unique. The problems you have been in history for many periods. There were investment during the wartime all over the planet, in United Kingdom during the Second World War, Balkan countries, Middle East, Israel right now. So let's speak about how Ukraine is unique or not unique, what is very common to the Ukrainian problems. And Lisa, the first question goes definitely to you, because you are in 100 countries from 50s, I guess, been founded in 56, and you've seen it a lot, right? Different people, different countries, region, problems are the same. What are the lessons Ukraine have to learn?
Yeah, thanks. So I guess IFC is sort of the ultimate impact investor because, in fact, we're focused really on markets where we see some development need that we think the private sector can address. And because of that, we have a very active engagement in conflict-affected countries. There's about 40 that we prioritize globally, of which Ukraine is one of them. And in fact, last year we did 130 projects in those 40 countries. In Ukraine, much more than the average, because we did way more than 3 in Ukraine. I would say some of the things that are the same and a couple lessons learned. And what's different? So what's the same are some of the opportunities. So in most of those markets, we've invested in renewable energy. We've engaged with banks to support SMEs. We've financed the construction sector because all of these economies need construction materials. Agri-food is a target in most of those economies, including Ukraine. And finally, digital finance, because it helps to reach populations, as we've just heard from Privatbank, that otherwise might not have access to services. Maybe 3 lessons. One is the importance of really long-term commitments, patient capital. I think kind of like Konstantin was talking about, it's not about a quick win. And you need to find like-minded investors. So from IFC's perspective, we're looking for investors who want to be in for the long run. In Ukraine, this has to date been mostly investors that are already in the market. So as I mentioned, the challenge is to bring in new investors. We did, together with EBRD, and actually our partner Horizon Capital was involved in arranging the deal, engage in a very large telecom investment just a couple weeks ago, which brings in a new investor. But mostly it's existing investors who are really committed to the market. That's the first. The second lesson is not surprising. It's the importance of managing risks. So this is strong due diligence, risk assessment. It's the need for insurance, as we've touched on. In the case of Ukraine, what has helped IFC is support from donor partners who have, in some cases, taken part of IFC's risk, which has allowed us.
What?
So, for example, the Ukraine Investment Facility, which is a partnership between the EC and the government of Ukraine, they will take a first loss guarantee for part of our risk, which allows us to do more investment in riskier projects that we might not have done otherwise. And third and last, I think it's the importance of very careful project preparation and also building capacity of local businesses and working as well with government counterparts on how to improve the environment for such investments in a given sector. Maybe just to say what's different about Ukraine, and then I'll stop. So I think Ukraine's situation really is unique and in a very positive way. So most of those other 40 markets where IFC is investing in the face of conflict, you don't have functioning institutions. In Ukraine today, we see a really well-functioning government, parliament, private sector. We heard it this morning from the Prime Minister. I mean, the stability of the macroeconomy is remarkable. And the fact that not only are we trying to keep Ukraine stable, but the reform agenda is huge in Ukraine. And the World Bank Group is quite involved. This relates, of course, to Ukraine's EU accession, which requires a lot of reforms. But many of those reforms are the ones that are needed to support more foreign direct investment. So rule of law has already been mentioned. State-owned enterprise domination of the economy is one of the reform areas, and then continued deregulation. The resilience of the private sector, I think, in Ukraine is really spectacular and surprises me every day. I mean, the sector remains very strong. Some of the World Bank surveys show that there's decreased financial vulnerability among companies and actually gradually increasing sales, on average, of course. And last, I would say, not just because I'm part of that international community, but I think the support from the international community for Ukraine has also been unprecedented and is much greater than in many of those other conflict situations. So I also remain very optimistic for Ukraine's future in spite of everything.
Lisa, we have at least two optimists now. You're joining the club of, let's see by the end of the discussion. But a couple of small questions based on what you said. You know, in Ukraine, at least people I talk, we like to complain, saying, hey, everything is bad, everything is wrong. And to some extent, this is true. But the audience is quite small, and hope we are not recording this session. What would be your answer to people like that, saying, like, you're in 40 countries saying, listen, you should go to Mongolia probably, or something like that, couple of places to feel the real difference and enjoy the fancy life in Ukraine in terms of having institutions, central bank, and everything is running. Are there any, like, really, really bad places where you're still making business and projects?
So there are very difficult places. I mean, one project that we did last year, it was in the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is probably one of the more challenging markets in the world, and one that I worked on before this position. Mm-hmm. And there we managed to invest in a solar project. So again, with renewable energy being very important. So I think there's opportunities everywhere. And I think in the case of Ukraine, we see huge opportunities. We've estimated that of the reconstruction needs of Ukraine, which now, if you follow the assessment that the World Bank does, is about $500 billion, which I can't even imagine this number. Mm-hmm. But we estimated last year that with the right reforms in place, that the private sector can meet the need for about a third of that. So, and the opportunities in Ukraine are huge.
Better than in Congo.
I'm sorry?
Better than in Congo.
Much better than in the DRC, yes.
Thank you. Vasily, the next question is to you. You are kind of Horizon Capital. The biggest guy in towns, right? You are closing deals, raising funds. You feel fine, looks confident. What is the secret for Horizon Capital making business in a wartime in Ukraine, which is just superb results? What is the investment criteria? Have they changed during the war? If you can share the secret.
No, thank you. And indeed, it's going to be maybe a little bit of an optimistic speech here. And I kindly ask the audience not to perceive me as a delusional guy, you know, that is out of his mind. But
no, you're in my club then.
Yes, but the truth is, and maybe picking up the question addressed to Konstantinos, you know, we did make money in Ukraine over the years. So we've been investing for over 30 years, and despite all the challenges, massive devaluations, of course, the war that has been lasting for 10 years, we managed to make money. And I think the reason was having the right strategy for the right time. So in the 2000s, you know, when it was about the rise of the middle class in Ukraine, there was the convergence theme. So the investment, any investment you would make, the thesis was that, look, Ukrainians will drink more milk, eat more chocolate, and go more, on vacation. Then you basically invest in sectors that cater to the rising middle class and the convergence theme. In the 2000, after 2010, I think after several rounds of devaluations, we said that, look, actually, you may make good returns in local currency, you know, but maybe a strategy that is better insulated from the macro risks is investing in exporting companies. So for the last 12 years, we adjusted our investment strategy, you know, by investing primarily in exporting companies, IT companies, you know, agri companies, manufacturing companies, and that has worked well for us. As the security after the start of the war in 2014, and especially after the start of the full-scale invasion, you know, we said that, look, actually we'll focus primarily on asset-light companies, because in that way you're also insulated from this like physical destruction risk. And again, you see, I think the learning for us is that at each point you have to adjust your investment strategy to reflect the situation on the ground. And maybe to make people optimistic here is that I think we've shown that we are able, that there is demand for strong assets that are present in Ukraine, and there are investors who want to take a bet on Ukraine, you know, despite all the risks. Look at two transactions we did this year. In June, we announced a very large investment, $200 million in Kyrylo, workflow automation company, that has their entire R&D in Ukraine at a valuation of $1.2 billion. So it's real money that came into a company that has the entire R&D in Ukraine. Later on, as Lisa mentioned, we announced this huge deal, the telecom deal, where NJJ, one of the pioneers, and the most progressive telecom companies in the world, I think, not only Europe, by this very visionary founder, Xavier Niel, in France, they came into Ukraine to build like a truly revolutionary story by bringing Data Group, Volia, and LiveCell together in a project that is also financed by AFC EBRD with $435 million, but the total project is $1.5 billion. So you see that it's examples that there's demand for great stories in Ukraine. I'll give you one more example. Of course, we focus a lot on these exporting companies, but we also have some domestic champions that are doing tremendously well. So we invested in these discount retailers, Aurora, 6 months before the full-scale invasion. Like, if you tell this to an investor, he says, like, worst time possible, horrible time, guys, I'm sorry for you, sorry, like you invested 6 months before, bad luck. But then we invested when the company had $300 million of revenue. So this year, 3 years later, they're going to do more than $1.2 billion in revenue, and EBITDA grew many times over. I'm not going to tell you the number to make you feel uncomfortable, So, so in that sense, what I'm trying to say that, look, again, please don't look to me as the crazy guy and the crazy horizon, but we did show that, with a targeted investment strategy, you can make investments in Ukraine. And what has worked in the past doesn't mean it will work in the future, because now we're increasingly actually looking at domestic champions. We're increasingly looking at a product, to have for the imminent reconstruction, because we believe that that reconstruction sooner or later is coming. And of course, if the reconstruction comes, probably you shouldn't be investing primarily in exporting companies. Probably you should have a product also for that is caters well to the reconstruction opportunities. So, and that's the kind of discussions we're having inside the Horizon Capital.
Thank you. Quite optimistic. Just a small question. Everyone likes successful stories, success of success, and things based on that. Based on your experience, what was the biggest failure in Ukraine? Without names.
Why should we spoil this good mood here?
Okay,
of course, we've had our failures. Of course, I think we've learned from them. They've been made many years ago. I think the last big failure we had.
Speaking about the outcomes, I mean the lesson.
The lesson: don't invest in people that are low on integrity with business models that are low on competitive advantage, and that is a very nice way to put it. So.
Okay, thank you for being diplomatic. Сергій, the question to you. I think we can speak Ukrainian. Ми можемо українською, бо є переклад.
Okay. Suffering a lot from this.
No, I mean, me not. We know that Interpipe is investing in Ukraine during the wartime, which is a very unusual case, and you haven't relocated your production facilities abroad as many other Ukrainian businesses did. Why are you doing that? Why are you investing during the wartime when the project finance is not possible? Insurance, as Mr. Ellison said, no insurance for Ukraine. Why are you doing that?
On the one hand, you are right, we are a local producer and we have already invested billions of dollars in economy. On the other hand, we are a global player on railway wheels and pipe market, and we compete with other global players, and we cannot simply take a break for a war period from a global competition. That is why, unfortunately, we have to accept this risk and continue to invest in capacity renovation, in development new products, in reduction of CO2 emissions, just in order to be competitive on the market. But is what I want to say in this situation, that such investments play a very important role as a long-term motivation for employees, because for people in the company, it's a clear sign that the company believes in the future. It's very important at the moment.
So you say if you don't invest, you would lose the global competitiveness?
Yes, exactly. That is the issue.
And how much are you exporting right now? Because you have to change the market, you have to change your clients.
Yeah, that's correct. Now, even before the war, we exported roughly 70% of our sales volumes. And the situation now is almost the same, but today our key market is the European Union. Basically, this is the largest market for the company, and the demand and the requirements on this market is very strict. We should apply with these requirements, and we have no chances as compete with other companies.
Thank you. The question, Konstantinos, is to you. You are also in many countries, right? I guess, Chicago, Atlantic. And we just touched with Lisa on the fact that there are many bad places where still investments are happening, and there are many developed economies where things are happening. How would you compare Ukraine and opportunities in Ukraine with other countries? Because we touched developing regions like Africa, for example, other Eastern European countries. Why are you still in Ukraine but not in those more dynamic regions, I would say?
So I would say that Ukraine is a completely different case. I wouldn't compare Ukraine with Africa. I wouldn't compare Ukraine with Middle East. I wouldn't compare. It's, as I already mentioned, we see Ukraine as a European country, a Western country. Of course, there is a risk, but it's a country full of potential. We believe that country, we don't do a favor to Ukraine to make it a part of the European Union. It deserves to be member of the European Union. So we don't see here characteristics of developing countries as in Africa, for example. So from that perspective, we see that there are more opportunities here. There is a lot of upside because of the coming accession of the country in the European Union. So it is a good investment case.
Are you bothered too much with depopulation? People moving out from Ukraine and population is decreasing?
That's a challenge. I mean, especially displaced people is a problem. A lot of people left the country. It is one of the biggest challenges, people. But also, human capital is important. There is a lot of talent here. We see the tech sector, for example, it's a very promising sector with a lot of opportunities there and prospects. And of course, we believe that after the end of the war and the progress of the country towards its accession in the European Union, a lot of people will return. This is what we hope, this is what we support. That's why we are here to work towards this direction.
Great. You also mentioned at the beginning about impact investment and SME. And you have this initiative, Private Equity Academy.
Yeah.
Because to my belief,
it's not an academy, it's like an initiative, but let me explain. So based on our experience the last few months, we have realized that we have to support SMEs in order to prepare their projects to be eligible for private equity investing. Most of the companies are used to receive credit, and they are not so familiar with private equity. So we have a dedicated team, and we work with the key local stakeholders to educate those businesses and help them to prepare their projects. I think this is very important. So, and we consider that part of our mission. For example, in a few days we have an event with American University in Kief, and this is part of the initiative. And we see this initiative as part of our mission. We just want to invest. We want also to participate in the modernization of the country.
Thank you. That's really fascinating. Dmytro, coming back to you, you started to speak about the programs with IFIs, and we believe when there is no project finance in country, probably this is the few opportunities possible for Ukrainian SMEs and large corporates to get loans from Ukrainian banks. Can you elaborate on that? I mean, if banking is possible during the wartime, and what are your plans with IFIs?
Дякую за запитання. Давайте так, я доєднаюся до...
Thank you for your question. I will probably also side with the camp of optimism because this year we have also observed a lot of positive trends. Talking about the number of our clients, Privatbank is one of the largest in Ukraine. However, with the massive migration, this share of private entrepreneurs is shrinking. But there is a lot of competition between the banks concerning issuing loans for these businesses. There's also an increasing competition in terms of increasing credit portfolio. And this year the increase is about 30% in hryvnia. The devaluation of hryvnia is taking place. Well, there was naturally no devaluation of hryvnia, like 3.6% was the natural devaluation, but hryvnia hasn't evolved. And in the corporate sector, we have seen that the risk of investment was about 11%. So there are some clients that we're issuing loans with, and this market is developing. Concerning the quality of our customers, clients at the beginning of this war, I remember that we had a meeting with the chair of our board, and he said that the NPL should be at probably the level of 20%. I said it should be under 15%. And as of now, I've already mentioned, our NPL in retail is 11.4%. So it's under even the percentage in pre-war time. And with critical customers, it's 3 to 4% in retail. With corporate customers, the NPL is 3%, and it's only at the expense of the customers which are still in the occupied territories. In corporate customers overall, the NPL percentage is just 1%. Does it include Mr. Igor too? No, I'm talking about newcomers, newbies. Something which is beyond the bad portfolio is, I'm not going to comment on that. Therefore, we have a lot of positive trends, and cooperation with IFIs is of great support to us. This year, we underwrote 240 million worth of different projects. This allows us to support different risks and share risks with our customers. And the responsibility of the corporate sector, of course, is increasing. Until this year, we never credited private companies, except, of course, some of the shareholder companies. This year, we have established the new section, corporate business, which we are beginning to issue loans to. We already have some agreements, some new pipeline projects, and we very much hope that this will enable the development of the economy of our country. Can I provoke you in a little way? Yes, go ahead. Have you ever tried to obtain a loan from Privatbank for the development of your business as a private business, but failed to do so? No hands raised. So see, this is a stupendous story. Everything is working. They haven't tried to do so, some people are arguing instead.
I have a couple of questions, and all the questions are the same. Tell us about flights from Lviv, Kief, and how it's all connected to you.
Before I do, it's a great honor to be back here. This time last year, Yulia Sviridenko, the first Deputy Prime Minister, and I launched the Black Sea UNIT.City insurance facility.
Thank you. I guess that's an applause.
At that time, premium was 5% per voyage, unaffordable. Some people were traveling uninsured, but most shipping was not sailing. Premium is now a tenth of that. It's now at 0.5%, which relates to the Red Sea, which is 1.2%. Another trouble spot. And I think it shows, a public-private partnership, a small first loss fund provided by the Ukraine government allowed specialist insurers to come in, started to bring the price down, and the market is now a normal operating market. It went up a bit last month because we had some attacks on Odessa, but at the same time, confidence is there. Maersk announced 10 days ago that they're doing a weekly container service from Odessa, world's largest and quite conservative ship operator. Hapag-Lloyd doing the same sort of thing. So, I think, yes, it can happen, and, it's judged, I think the economists say that the 2,700 sailings that we've now had in the Black Sea since just over a year ago, has been worth 7% to Ukraine's GDP. About 20 billion of exports, probably a lot of your pipes, I imagine. But about 20 billion of exports. So yeah, you can do things. Of course, what everyone's excited about is what next. And the new game is how do we find insurance to allow aerospace, the aviation, to open up in Western Ukraine. In short, the president will hate me for saying this because he keeps saying the target is Borispil. The initial target is Lviv, 7 minutes flying time from Poland. But an A320 or 737, a small airliner, requires $750 million of insurance. It's quite a hefty challenge. Again, I think like the marine market, the aviation market is much more used to war risk. And as soon as we are ready for now for the political decision, which will depend on air defense and everything else, but we're now ready for the political decision to open up Lviv. I think if we're lucky, January, we've got 5 or 6 airlines who want to fly. This coming January.
Okay.
This coming January. But it will depend on the distribution of air defense, the war, and everything else. And getting all, unlike shipping is a virtually unregulated industry. Aviation is probably the most regulated industry that there is. So we've got to get all the regulators on side. But I keep saying Lviv's a lot safer than Tel Aviv. People don't like me for saying that, but I do.
Thank you.
So that's the next thing, and then probably economically and politically more pressing is finding war risk insurance for critical energy assets that Ukraine needs to bring in, for this winter. The beyond, I think, is easier, but for this winter, that is difficult because those are targets. And so you're now actually looking for war risk insurance for something which Putin is clearly targeting. I think a lot of it, we'll get something in. It's easier to insure small dispersed generators than large, gas turbines near heading out to the east, which glow at night. And, those are really virtually impossible to insure at the moment. But, bundles of, and when I say smaller, I'm talking about container-sized generators, 1 megawatt generators. We're hoping to get about 150 of those in for this winter. And I think those are insurable because you can disperse them much more. But those are some of the, we can do it despite the lack of capacity, but this is using the 5% of global capacity that is available, and normally in a public-private partnership with government or donors like World Bank and EBRD.
Thank you. January next year.
The insurance, the decision is OPU. Okay.
Great. Can we put the results of our voting, please, so we can the slide number 1. We can just take a look what audience think about us and situation in Ukraine, and then we can use those results as we go on the next, basically, next question. No, the previous one, the first one. Get back, please. Okay. Becoming old. So, how would you rate Ukraine current investment attractiveness? Most of the answers are about 4 and 3, which is okay. The next question: how likely would you invest in Ukraine in the next 12 months? Much better. Next question: what are the most significant risks associated? Probably I'll have to stand and read from here. So military and security risk, which will go away with end of the war. And then human resource, which Vasily has mentioned on second place. Quality of state management, we touched on that. Infrastructure risk. and economic market factors. Okay, great. Next, please. About the sectors, and we'll have to ask Vasily and other panelists. Defense and industry, agri and food processing, IT, manufacturing, and then infrastructure, logistics, and construction. Thank you. And the next question. Factors to increase confidence. Peace agreement, strong legal protection, rule of law, we touched on that. Comprehensive war risk insurance, and clear post-war recovery strategy. Okay, and the last one, how would you rate investment potential? Maximum, close to maximum, and that's in the middle, I guess it's from IFI. Okay, we are totally lagging behind the schedule, but we still have time for couple of questions and like summary messages probably. So if we can sum up on ideas we discussed, taking into consideration the voting pool, audience behavior, what would it be? I mean, what we need to do as a country, and we'll have time to discuss it at the end of the panel. Lisa, how has your business involved in this country during the full-scale invasion, and how do you see the future for Ukraine?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we've stayed very active in Ukraine since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. The way in which it's evolved is the sectors of focus and also the instruments we've been able to use. So early on, we engaged mostly in shorter-term financing, for example, with partner banks to provide guarantees for trade finance so that essential goods could continue to come into Ukraine, but also to support exports, for example, of grain. As time has gone on, and as I mentioned, we've been able to get some support from partners such as EC, UK, Switzerland, Netherlands. We have been able to engage in longer-term, riskier investments. So for now, for example, in our pipeline going forward for the next year, we have about $1 billion of opportunities that we have identified in some of the sectors that the audience also identified as key opportunities. For example, infrastructure, including renewable energy. In spite of the absence of adequate insurance, there are a couple investors actively involved in the sector. Agribusiness, construction materials, where of course we expect a large demand. Technology, I think, as we've done with Horizon, remains a really important sector. So I think we continue to provide for urgent shorter-term needs, but the main change is that we're seeing opportunities for longer-term investment, both long-term debt as well as equity finance going forward.
Thank you. Vasily, the next is probably your comment would be based on sectors that audience has chosen and your vision for Ukraine 3 years. Sectors, deals you are cooking.
Yes, we are optimistic, and sometimes I joke we're optimistic by choice. You know, it's a commitment we have to this market and to the region, so we're optimistic by choice. But I also think there's objective data that makes me optimistic. So clearly, the country has been much more resilient than expected. Also, the economy has been much more resilient than expected. Sometimes I'm sharing some of these stats with our investors. They don't believe it. For example, you know that. Looking at the even like discretionary things like restaurant turnover, you know, is above, you know, the pre-full-scale invasion level. The number of active SMEs is like 98% of the pre-full-scale invasion level. The number of vacancies we're tracking, you know, is about 10-15% below the full-scale invasion level, but it is still remarkable, such a high level number of open vacancies. So I think there's, I don't want to downplay the risks. Of course, we all know the challenges. I'm not going to recite them. And I think the opportunities are are there, like things like look, also things that that people don't realize. For example, I was surprised when I read this stat that last year in 2023 we had 150 new gas wells being drilled, which is an absolute record. So Ukraine is self-sufficient on gas, of course, because of the gas consumption come down. I'm not fooling myself, but still, this country is drilling gas. So Ukraine has the potential to become the Texas of Europe in a good way, the good side of Texas, kind of the freewheeling economy, the energy side of it, So during the wartime, again, another stat, nearly 700 megawatts of energy capacity has been launched since the full-scale invasion. Again, that's a big number. You understand, like how much a megawatt costs and the investment associated. So that makes us optimistic. On our side, look, if there are entrepreneurs in this room, just to use a little advertorial, looking for capital, we are looking to invest. We have capital to invest. We're doing 10, 15, 20, 25 million dollars per transaction, minority stakes, equity investments only. We don't do debt. So look, we are optimistic, and I think this cohort of entrepreneurs that believe in Ukraine now and will put the money at work now these are likely to be some of the most successful vintages in the history of Ukraine. So we stay optimistic.
Thank you. Konstantina, the question to you, what is the main message for the potential investors to send? I mean, don't come to Ukraine in November, come in April probably.
No. We strongly believe that they have to invest now. And this is a message for everybody. They don't have to wait until the end of the war.
In different areas which are smaller, it is minuscule. This is because the market is not supporting Ukraine. And that's a fundamental problem. I can't give you the details.
I have a proposal. Let's discuss it after the panel is personally. We have a question on the left side over there. You have a client waiting for you. Okay,
thank you so
last
much.
Question.
I'm Volodymyr Vlasyuk. I am CEO of Ukraine Industry Expertise. We are dealing with the manufacturing and investing in manufacturing because we believe that's only the way for Ukraine to become richer, stronger, to generate more taxation, and so on. So it's very important now to have the war risk insurance in the manufacturing, right? Even despite the continuance of the war in Ukraine, this process should not be interrupted. So my question is, maybe Lisa, Vasilio, or you, Kriston, I have some experience contacting with the private brokerage in the London. So we have tried to have the war risk insurance for one manufacturing in wood sector, processing of the wood, in the Rivne. So I have heard about the insurance premium about 15%, from 15 to 20. We have started from the 20, then we have managed to decrease to the 15, but no less. So what is your understanding? What would be the fair premium? Or I understand that we do not have now in Ukraine the fair market for this premium, but what is your understanding? What could be the fair and justice premium rate, for example, if we'll try to make insurance for manufacturing, invest in manufacturing in Ukraine?
Thank you so much. Really short answer because
very quick.
They would like to cut off the electricity.
I don't know what is fair. What you are getting is a market. That's the market premium in a broken market. And that's the problem, is we do not have a proper operating insurance market. And the insurance industry, is not trying at the moment sufficiently hard to build one. But 15 to 20%, you can always get insurance. It's getting affordable insurance that is the key. And 15 to 20% is normally unaffordable. So that is the consequence of a broken market. And that's what we need to address.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being with us. I provoke you to speak with our speakers during the break. Thank you for being optimistic. Thank you for joining Mr. Nakis and his way in being optimistic about Ukraine. Enjoy the forum. Thank you so much.